The name of this challenge is Plein Airpril. It's June, so let's get started. Plein Airpril is an art challenge by weird painters, where the goal is to make one painting a day for the month of April. And these are the paintings I made in April. The first painting that I made is this one here. I really like how this one turned out. I think I first started with this, with the sky color. I really like the dissolve effect that I made, so there's a lot of noise in the background. The next thing I started, just imagine this as just an entirely like black shape. Let's see. Just imagine it like that looks like this. And then I gradually added more and more texture based off the reference that I was using. And then I added a few trees. I think that this is good because it shows where the light direction is coming from. I also wanted some storytelling, so I got this image. I got this image on Pinterest. I have a picture of... Yeah. And I went from this to this. Actually, I sketched in a little bit of this, and I have a little mask here. If I disable this mask, you'll see the whole thing. So after that, I added a smart filter, and that was motion blur. So that way, everything here is stationary, but this is in like a different shutter speed. Yeah, and then I added some color lookup stuff. Each one has layer mask. So yeah, this one is a color lookup. And then I added some more saturation on the bottom layer of this. And I also added some color balance. That way things popped where I wanted them to. And I really like how this one turned out. Next for day 2. Oh, right. Yeah, here's the background that I decided to put in. It matches the Photoshop background. I think I just color picked it like that. This image was from a trip I took to the Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. Let's see, yeah, going through each layer. This one I labeled additions. That's basically adding a little bit more volume to areas. I didn't like the overall mood with this, so I added some blue. And this is probably my sketch layer actually. Yeah, making it a little bit darker, a little bit more eerie, and I added some eyeballs. A little nitpick for me is, in my opinion, the eyes don't really lead to where I want them to lead, so I decided to lead the eye to the cave with these lines. However, if you're over here in this area, you're pretty much like in this blind spot. Like this is the big focal point, and these lines kind of lead to where I want them to lead. So yeah, a little nitpick and learning new things during this process. Day 3 is when I started to use most of the canvas. So here's my sketch layer before. This took about 15 minutes. And here's after. I really do like how this one turned out. I remember I had a little bit of trouble working on this. I think that the focal point, definitely the TV. Like for example, if I go into grayscale or sepia, you could see that it's there, but there are a lot of flashing values that are like surrounding it. So this here is like not the darkest area. So I think I put in this layer after, and I wanted to add some, but this was like ugly piss yellow. I did not like what I did there. Other than that, I really do like how this one turned out. I really enjoy the texturing. I enjoy this color dodge that I chose for the reflection of this. This is like a house. There's like a tiny like implication of a chimney. And this, I think, the blue is the grass here. So yeah, maybe my only thing that I would say I would like to change in the future is timing. I think this took a little bit too long. Next is day 4, and I have to move my canvas. These are minion bath bombs. I think I wanted to take a photo of this. I thought it looked nice, and here is what came out of it. I like how this one turned out. I like that I focused on timing with this one. I think I learned from the previous one that I did. I also used, I think, one brush with this, which I think is this pen of some sort that I've been using from G Brushes from my friend Gabby. Link is in the description. I also like how many layers I chose. Like this is the entire folder that I used. Yeah, so I started with this, added this area, and then I added a few areas. I kept basically going down, and I eventually made it to this. I think there was a time where I actually added like this, like a face, my Larry face on this one here. That's another photo. I'm not sure if I posted that or not. I'll share it if I can find it. I think my favorite minion is this one here. I think the color actually works, in my opinion. But yeah, minion bath bombs. Day 5. What did I do on day 5? I see a gap here. It says day 4 and day 6. Oh, that was it. Okay, I found it. You know how when you have a vision in your brain and you try to make that vision, but that vision doesn't really go onto the page that well? I feel like that's what happened to this one here. But either way, I really like the outcome. It looks really fun. For day 6, I think I went to the park and I saw something that I really enjoyed, and so I drew it. Wow. For the composition, I wanted this to be center stage, and the leaves to basically just be going down towards that area. Kind of like a waterfall. So yeah, this is my sketch there, and this is my finish. For this one, I really like the atmospheric perspective, and also the bloom effect that I added around this big area. I think for my process, I had a lot of trouble working with the foliage. The foliage wasn't really working for me. I think after a little bit, I've just put stuff into like a shape layer. I like this color dynamic area. Yeah, I would say this is very successful. On day 7, I found this really nice golden hour that was being hit onto this apartment complex. So here's before and here's after. I really like the blurriness of the shadows on this building and this teeny tiny dot that is supposed to be a plane. I really enjoy that. For the texturing, I think I went into an overlay layer and put the color dynamics to brightness only and made it dark to about 50%. So that way I could do this. I really like how fun the cars look here. Yeah, I really enjoy the reflections that I did on these cars. This one did not take that much time either. I really like the palm trees that I put in, and also this fun cloud writing. Love you guys. I think a dislike that I have is this tree here. That's pretty much it though. Day 8 is when I started working with very small thumbnails, which is what thumbnails are supposed to be. They're the size of your thumb, so the little detail you have, the more you can focus on where things are placed. For comparison, this is how big the thumbnail was actually, and I blew it up to make it the resolution I wanted. So with that in mind, let's see. Yeah, I started with this, I started with the ocean, and then I made my way over to this finish. There's a color lookup that I really like. It's the 3-strip look. It's a nice filter and it adds some colors that I really like. I posted this one on social media, and I remember that I felt like that something was off. So I went in the next day and I just added a luminosity layer, and I think that I love this a lot more than the original. I think what I like about this one is it really depicts the feeling of summer vacation. Day 9 is where I continue this small thumbnail. I found this bird that was just walking really funny, and I wanted to take a picture of it. So this is the before, and this is what I made out of it. Originally the stick was like off right here, but I decided to put it center stage along with the bird. I was originally right here. The way I started was I put in this one, then I have a bird layer on top of it, so the bird is on its own, and then I blew it up. I felt like something was still a little bit off. I felt like the black and white wasn't really, I didn't like it for some reason. So what I added was a luminosity layer, another one, so I could see the top half of the center stage a little bit more. I think I remember having a little bit of trouble working with the rocks. The problem that I had was the form, like you couldn't tell the difference between the top area and the side area. But I'm glad that I managed to fix my problem. Day 10 is where I grabbed my paint equipment and paint outside with my friends. My friends and I went over to Arcadia and painted in this little park area. I do not like to use black in my pieces, so I do alternatives like blue, purples, and a little bit of grays. I think that makes it pop a little bit more. Overall, I think this one was very successful for even the time that I made it in. For day 11, I worked on this how do I start this? I used this picture that my friend took when we were in Santa Monica. In the original photo, I think that the seagull was a little bit further away. So here's my before, and here's my after. I think originally it was just this. I think on the car ride home when I finished this, I didn't post it yet, but I was like, something's missing. Like, it feels like he's like, you know, Tokyo drifting towards, like, he's looking at something, and he's like moving very quickly to this area, but like, he's moving to nothing. So my solution when I got back home was fish. I think that this one really added a bunch, and you know, it makes me smile every time I see it. Now for the process. So the first things that I would do is like figure out where everything is. I would lower the opacity of this sketch, and would basically add things on top of it, making it feel more lived in. The sand that I used, I put in like a really large area, basically just straight lines pretty much, and in texture areas. Then after that, I would basically go into perspective warp and add that perspective that I needed, and I would just slap it on. I think I originally stopped with this. It felt more calm, it felt more like, you know, just walking on the beach, but I didn't really feel like it was done. So my solution to that was I went from this bird to I duplicated the bird and made it a little bit more dynamic. And with that, it felt like, you know, like kind of moving really fast, so I added the dust. After all that, I took off everything and replaced it with a duplicate layer of everything here that's on the bottom. Now it feels like the f-stop is at like 2.4. The depth of field is really carrying this whole piece, and I really like how this turned out. And then after, I put in the fishes, gave it some shadow, and added some color lookup, and I think I added, yeah, another luminosity layer. I think from, what is it, I forget, like day 7, I start to really abuse the luminosity layer because it is so fun to use. And I remember I wanted to add some onomatopoeia, but I ended up not really going with that because if I added it, then this would be the star, not the characters. So that's gone. Day 12 is based on an image I took when I was in downtown LA a few years ago. This was like a 5-minute sketch. This is the before, and here's the after. I realized now that I used a ton of layers on this, so I'm just gonna go from the bottom layer to the top layer. And for all of the lighting that is in this painting, I use this normal layer that is pretty much blocking in the foreground buildings and this back building here. I don't know cursive, but imagine if I do. Day 13. Day 13 is another vertical portrait painting that I did. This one was in Phoenix, and I took it with my little film camera. So here's pretty much my 1 minute to 2 minute sketch to my final piece. I didn't really have that many layers in this, as I think it also took like about 15 minutes to do this. With how simple this painting is, I liked how it turned out. Not really much to say with this. Day 14 was a more experimental day. Here's my sketch, and here's my final piece. After completing this painting and also looking at it now, this looks really much like a candy world. Like, there's a lot of weird colors in weird places. It feels very sugar-coated, and I don't know, I like it because of that. This feels a little bit like a wasteland, but yet again, the environment still feels whimsical. Out of what I've seen, it's not my most favorite, but it definitely still has some potential. Last but not least, day 15. While I was leaving the Arcadia Park on day 10, I found this really cool house, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna draw it. So this is my before, and here's my after. I really like the stylistic leaves and foliage that I added, especially the ones that are behind the house. Like, they have that little, like they have that jitter effect. I think I drew this painting on April 30th. So I think this is a very nice ending. I don't think I got much done, but at the same time I got like halfway there. And it's also about 2 times as many paintings as I made last year. I think for this challenge, the biggest challenge isn't really the painting of it, but more like the consistency and the discipline. So yeah, those are my paintings that I made during Plein Airpril. I hope you guys liked this showcase video, and I'm gonna start editing and I'm gonna feed my cat.